What's up, and welcome to a special edition of Bet the Edge, bets and brackets powered by PointsBet. I'm your host, Corey Parson, the fantasy executive, and coming up over the next few minutes, we are going to get you ready for the 2022 NCAA tournament, and I got three of the best college basketball handicappers in the biz, my man Drew Dinsick, Thomas Casale, and Vaughn Dalzell. Let's get ready to get the party started. It's March Madness time. No times for the salutations. Let's get ready to hop right in. And Drew, I'm gonna start with you. Next year, this time, when we go into March Madness, there's going to be a certain coach of the Duke Blue Devils who's no longer going to be there after 42 seasons. Coach K is coaching in his last tournament today. What do we think, Drew, of the Duke Blue Devils' chances this season?
I know that there's a lot of people who, for old time's sake, would love to see Duke make a run in this tournament, but boy, oh boy, they have a statistical blueprint that screams a team that is likely to get upset. And the committee did them no favors, putting them in a very, very challenging bracket, setting him up against his longtime foil, Tom Izzo, and potentially in round two, if Michigan State beats Davidson, of course. But ultimately, the likelihood of Duke getting to the Final Four, I would have to say, is very low. As I look again kind of at their profile of this Duke team, they struggle to create turnovers. That has been their undoing in a lot of games this season where they have found themselves at a deficit. When it comes to sort of the top of the NCAA seeding, I definitely look for those teams that struggle to create turnovers on defense, and I tend to avoid them in March Madness because, again, if their opponent happens to have a hot shooting night, the likelihood that they're going to be able to scrap their way back into a game is not especially good. So as fun as it would be for old time's sake to see Coach K and this Duke team make a run in this tournament, I think as a Duke fan, I will be happy if they make the Sweet 16.
All right, there you go right there. Drew, as a fan, is happy if they make the Sweet 16. Vaughn, last year this time, all the talk was, can anybody in this field beat Gonzaga? It did happen last year, but here we are again. Vaughn, it seems like they've been the best team in college basketball for the better part of 5 years. Not too much talk about the Zags this year. What do you think about them going into the tournament?
Yeah, being so good the past 5 years, they could definitely use some more banners, I'm sure. They would like that. But this could be the year. I like what they've been able to do all season. I think they're the best team entering this tournament. And with the addition of Chet Holmgren, I love what he's been able to do for this team. Now, we've talked about it a couple times, but this year, they're 7th in adjusted defensive efficiency. They were 11th last year, so they're a little bit better. But the two categories they got much better with his addition was effective field goal percentage and 2-point defensive percentage. They were 76 and 61 in those two categories last year. They're number one in both categories this season. So Gonzaga has improved a lot under Chet Holmgren, whether you know it or not. And I like the chance that they roll into the Elite Eight and into the Final Four and beyond, because when I look at this path, I love it. Absolutely love it. Like, we're talking about Boise State and Memphis, potentially UConn, maybe an Arkansas Duke team down the road. Like, I will take Gonzaga against all these teams. So I'm pretty excited for the Bulldogs in their region.
Thomas, I just spent the past week drinking soda, sitting on the couch, watching college basketball the whole week, right? And then yesterday when the brackets come out, the teams I was most impressed by, Tennessee, Iowa, Texas A&M. A&M doesn't even get a bid. Iowa's a 5 seed and Tennessee is a 3 seed. If they're not going to count what's happening in the conference tournament, Thomas, what are we really doing?
Well, you make a good point, and I think one of the things is the committee always looks at everything, right? And that's why Xavier had a shot to make the tournament, because they're looking back at what Xavier did in November. I could care less. I mean, beating Ohio State in November doesn't matter to me. I'm looking at these teams that are playing well. One thing I'll say about the conference tournaments, though, Tennessee and Iowa are a little bit different because they've been playing well for a month leading into the conference tournament. Watch out for those teams that got hot for a couple of days, like your Richmonds and some of those teams like that. I think some people, their views of teams change from the conference tournament, because I've been hearing a lot of Kentucky isn't that good the last 48 hours. I got news for you. There aren't too many teams like Tennessee in this tournament that match up with Kentucky.
Yeah. No doubt about that. Definitely going to talk a little bit about the Kentucky Wildcats as we move on through the course of the show. Now, listen, what we like to do against the spread, ATS, betting on the tournament, it's a lot of fun. But don't forget, we first fell in love by getting that bracket, getting that sheet, and filling it out, slapping it on the refrigerator. Nowadays, these things are digital, Vaughn. You know what I'm saying? But do you have any tips, strategies, techniques, not when it comes to betting the tournament, but when it comes to filling out your bracket?
Yeah, so I always like to look at obviously the seedings and what those teams have done in the past with those seeds. So, for example, at least one number 13 seed has been a number 4 seed in the last 26 of 36 tournaments. Then I like, for a betting standard, if we're talking about covering spreads, we like to look at how many of those with single digits because those teams are likely to be 7, 8, 9-point favorites or more. So I do that. But something I did that was very interesting this year when I fit on my bracket, I ranked every single seed 1 through 4. So I took the 1 seeds, ranked them 1 through 4, the 2 seeds 1 through 4, the 3, and then the teams that were the very, very bottom 1 or 2. Those are the teams I'm fading. And I think that could be upset potential. So a team like UConn, for example, they're my worst number 5 seed. I think they could be upset.
That's interesting. I know we're going to talk about the Huskies a little bit later on. Thomas, you still do the bracket, or you just betting it? And do you have any strategy when it comes to filling out your brackets?
Not only do I still fill it out, I got the paper one. I haven't transferred over to the digital one. So the thing I would say is I think sometimes people fall in love with teams before Selection Sunday and don't look at the matchups. Listen, I like Vermont, but if Arkansas comes to play, that's a bad matchup for Vermont. So that would be my one piece of advice is take a look at who these teams are playing and see if the matchup is right for an upset before just picking them.
And Drew, when you are not beating up on odds makers, are you filling out NCAA tournament brackets?
Of course.
I'm a one bracket guy. Are you a one bracket guy?
I actually try to tailor my bracket to the pool because if you want to win your pool, you have to play a little bit of game theory. You can't walk in and just assume that you have got the answer key, so to speak. You need to pick somewhat pool contrarian picks if you expect to win. Now, if you're in an office pool, generally they're going to gravitate towards chalk. They're going to gravitate towards the Dukes and the Kentuckys and the Kansases and the Arizonas. Those are programs that people who haven't been watching college basketball all season, they know those names. And so to a degree, you're going to want to go a little bit contrarian when it comes to sort of the expectation for, what a public pool might be. Now, the flip side is if you're in a especially sharp pool, then you're in a little bit of trouble, obviously. Wouldn't necessarily expect to win. But, I think almost certainly in a sharper pool, I think you're almost going to have to go more chalk because in reality, you're going to need those points from the Elite Eight wins, from the Final Four wins, from the semifinals final wins. It's less to your advantage to take swings on some long shot Cinderella teams to make a run. And ultimately, it's rare that you can kind of identify, hey, 1, 2, 3. These are the 3 Cinderellas that I think are going to make it to the Sweet 16, and then that exactly plays out. You're playing with a little bit of fire there. So I tend to go chalkier when I'm in, a high stakes pool, and I tend to go a little bit contrarian when I'm in sort of an office pool type of a setting.
All right, so I want to go back to a night. I believe it was late December. There was no sports on TV. It was nothing to bet on. You know what I'm saying, Drew? And I said, you know what? There's nothing to bet on. I'm gonna go prepare myself for the NCAA tournament. And I put down a couple of futures wagers. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
That night, I got the Arizona Wildcats at 12-1. Right now, that number sitting at 6-1. Second shortest favorite on the board, the Arizona Wildcats. Drew, let's get to that South region. What do you think of the region's top team, Arizona, who a lot of people, including myself, seem to think can win this whole thing?
Well, as I look at the South, I see the most, I would say this is the region of death. In my opinion, I have, in general, the South, I have both Houston identified as a team that is way, way better than their 5 seed, would give them credit for, largely because of their defense, something that tends to travel, in a lot of these settings, when you get into these giant open, empty arenas where these guys are playing, it's tougher to make your 3-point shots. It's not any tougher to play defense if you are that good at defense. And what Houston brings to the table defensively is exciting to me. And so Arizona-Houston as a potential round of 16 matchup is going to be electric. Villanova, I also believe to be the real deal. Tennessee, I believe to be the real deal. And I would say that 1-5-2-3, those potential Final Four teams in this particular region, that's your strongest Final Four across all of these different regions. So as I look at the South, this is going to be the most entertaining basketball. Even Loyola Chicago is going to be a tough matchup for Villanova here. And I think the odds generally reflect that. Like, you didn't see the number move substantially in Arizona's favor to make it to the Final Four or to win the title after we saw the bracket. And why did the committee, quasi penalize them? It's tough for me to say because they did everything they were asked to do down the stretch, they draw some very, very tough tests on the way to a Final Four here. If Arizona ultimately gets to the Final Four, they are going to be an absolute nightmare to match up with. The problem is getting out of the South is going to be tough for them. I personally have Villanova coming out of here. I think at 5-1, them making it out of this region is a fair play. But I could actually see it going anyway between Arizona, Houston, Tennessee, and Villanova here.
Vaughn, Arizona up top, Villanova down at the bottom. Let's talk about the region's 2 seed, the Big East champion, Villanova Wildcat.
Yeah, well, I loved everything Drew said there. That was perfect. I believe this is the region where we can see chaos with all the top teams here. We don't know which top team is going to make it out alive, but Villanova has a good path to do so. Now, I know they're in Pittsburgh and not Philadelphia, which is a sort of a big thing, but not really, because it's not a disadvantage by any means. They're going to travel well and get to Pittsburgh, but also the Sweet 16 Elite 8 will be at Wells Fargo in Philadelphia. So if Villanova does make it past these games, then they can be at home in front of their own crowd. And Drew said it, Loyola, Chicago, and Villanova. I love how he just said Ohio State's out already. I'm with you there. And I'm sure Tom is as well. We're all just going to probably be fading the Big Ten like Ohio State. But Villanova, if they get Loyola, Chicago, I like them in that matchup. They'd likely be getting, I think Tennessee is probably the best bet for them to match up. And if Tennessee and Villanova is a Sweet 16 matchup, that's an instant classic. I think that's the type of game that we can see, and I like both teams' paths to meet each other in Sweet 16.
You know what? That would be very interesting. Would like to see. That would be one of the best games that we see over the next couple of weeks if we do get that matchup. But I tell you what, Tom, before we got to get to that matchup, we got to make sure nobody gets tripped up by some of these lower seeds. And you got some real junkyard dogs in this bracket right here. Number 1 with Loyola, Michigan, my University of Alabama, Birmingham Blazers, and of course, Chattanooga, Tennessee, the team I keep hearing about. Tom, when you look at some of the teams down the bracket in this region, who stands out to you and what do you think about some of these stronger lower seeds?
Well, so every year there's a region that usually sends old TC's brackets into the garbage about by Friday night. This could be it because I have Chattanooga beating Illinois. I have UAB beating Houston. Whoa. I have Loyola beating Villanova. So this is the region. Those are teams I like, and I think they got decent matchups. One thing about Houston, I know the metrics love them. They got their best win of the season on Sunday against Memphis. Their other big wins are over Oregon and Virginia. Just listen, they got Jelly Walker there for UAB. That's going to be a good game. So, but I do agree. There's a lot that can happen in this bracket. Tennessee's strong. I have a future on Arizona too. I took Arizona only because of this. This is the reason why I took them to win it all. When every team is playing their best, I think Arizona is slightly better than Gonzaga if both teams are playing their best. So I took the Wildcats to win it all, but I could certainly see Tennessee, Villanova grind that game down to nothing with Arizona. So some interesting possible future matchups here.
All right, let's get into some of the matchups that we do have and that we already know. Let's break them down from an ATS standpoint. We want to kind of get everybody's opinion on a couple of these early matchups in the South region. And Thomas, I'll start with you, my man. Michigan laying 2.5 versus Colorado State. Colorado State, the team I first got to put eyes on this weekend when they were playing in the Mountain West Championship.
Yeah, this is a tough game because you never know which Michigan team is going to show up. They've been wildly inconsistent this year. I lean Colorado State here only because that same Colorado State team usually shows up every night. You know what you're getting. You're going to get a battle. You're going to get a tough team. So I lean the Rams, but this is probably – I think there's better options on the board. Let's put it that way.
All right, but we got Vaughn, Michigan and Colorado State.
Hey, we said fade the Big Ten. We start right here, ladies and gentlemen. We're taking Colorado State in this matchup. I like the Rams. I mean, you look at what Michigan's done overall. We're talking about defensive turnovers. They don't force any. They're ranked 335th in the country. You look at what Colorado State's done. They won 9 of their last 11. They're a top 25 team when it comes to offensive turnovers, efficiency, field goal percentage, 2-point percentage. And Michigan lacks when it comes to guarding in the paint. So I'm looking at Colorado State live as a live dog here. I took them plus 2.5, and I took them on the money line at 115.
Drew, I feel like I'm going against everybody because I'm on Michigan laying the 2.5. What am I missing?
Well, I'm with you. I think Michigan ought to be favored. I make it 3, so I didn't play this game, but certainly of the round 1 contest, this is the one that I think is is going to be the most exciting, because surely Michigan, if they come out and play their best game, I think they're a class above Colorado State. However, if they get behind in this one, they suffer from a lot of the consequential problems that teams that get bounced early suffer from. And realistically, yes, there's nothing about Colorado State's resume or seeding that's fraudulent. This is a good team. This is probably one of your top matchups and most entertaining games in round 1.
Definitely can see it that way. Drew, stay right here. Loyola and Ohio State. We've already basically put 2 Big Ten teams out the tournament right now. With Loyola, we've seen them before, and obviously they seem to have momentum on their side in the betting market.
Yeah, I would have made this one closer to Loyola -4. I think they're absolutely the real deal. They're peaking right now. Nothing about their profile smells like trouble to me. And this is a team that has a lot of experience in these moments. Ohio State, of course, going to try to absolve those demons of being a 2 seed last year and getting eliminated in round 1. I just don't see the quality on that, of those players in terms of being able to distinguish themselves against this Loyola team that realistically, I thought 10 was a perfectly fair seed for them. I was kind of hoping for that sort of a seed for this team. I feel like if they had gotten another 2 seed potentially in the matchup in the round of 32, they may have been able to recreate that magic and make a little bit of a run here. But I think ultimately, if you're going to get involved with Loyola, if you want to be part of the ride, you probably have only one shot to do it in this tournament.
Vaughn, Drew said he makes the game Loyola -4. You want to go for 5?
Yeah, let's do it, baby. I already told you this morning. That's a 2-unit bet for me, Loyola. I love this matchup for them. They have similar offensive numbers, but Loyola's defense is so much superior when it comes to Ohio State's. We obviously know Ohio State in the Big Ten doesn't play great defense, but yeah, everything here points to Loyola Chicago rolling in this matchup. I'm going to be at this game. I already bought tickets for this one, so this will be the first game that I go to. And as I said, 2 units. Ohio State 1-4 ATS and on the money line in their last 5 games. They've lost games as -226, -225, -320, and -560-50. 5,650 on the money line. They lost to Nebraska outright. Give me Loyola.
All right, Thomas. Are we going to make it a 3 for all on Loyola?
We certainly are. I'm similar to Drew. I have a Loyola -3 in this game. Let's put it this way. If Loyola wins, I might send both my sons there. If they don't win, my sons won't have to worry about going to college. I don't give out units, but I got a lot of them on the Ramblers. These guys kind of summed it up. I mentioned, don't fall in love with teams, but this is one of those things going into the tournament. Ohio State was a team I was looking to fade. Loyola a team I'm looking to back. Mm-hmm. Perfect storm here. I think Loyola's 3-point shooting, their 3-point defense. And don't forget, 3 players missed the Big Ten tournament for Ohio State. Kyle Young, the big one with a concussion, may or may not play on Friday. So that impacts this game too. I actually think Loyola wins this game easily.
All right, Thomas, can I introduce your children to either Seton Hall or Texas Christian University? Seton Hall, a 1-point favorite versus TCU.
Well, probably not, because I have a futures bet on Seton Hall that's worthless, and I bet TCU for the first time this year against Kansas, and they got blown out. So neither kid's going to either one of those schools. But in this game, I think TCU does a lot of its damage in the paint down low. I think Seton Hall has the kind of defense to bang with them. I'm not betting this game personally, but I lean Seton Hall advancing.
All right, Vaughn, Seton Hall and TCU.
This is a terrible game to bet. I think it's one of the most 50-50 games on the entire slate. But what Tom just said was the one big thing for me. Seton Hall is the 5th tallest team in the country, and TCU loves to score inside when they can't make their 3-pointers, which we saw against Kansas. So I lean Seton Hall here. I took them in my brackets, and if I was betting, I would take Seton Hall.
All right. Yeah. What's up, Drew?
Yeah, Seton Hall for me in this one as well. I think they ought to be slightly more respect here in the market. Just definitely, nothing against TCU. Congratulations on finally putting something of quality together in the Big 12 tournament. But ultimately, I think Seton Hall gets a win not with margin, but in the 4 to 5 point range.
All right, we are off and rolling. The madness is here. Get an Edge Plus annual subscription now to unlock our college basketball, DFS, and betting. With game predictions, player prop projections, and more. Get ready to cut down the nets using promo codes BRACKET20. Plus, you'll get every tool for every sport with your Edge Plus subscription, including our new fantasy baseball draft guide. Go to NBCSportsEdge.com/EdgePlus, and use promo code brackets20. All right, we are off and rolling. Rock, Chalk, Jayhawk. We haven't discussed them yet. We'll break it down as we continue on brackets and bets.
Welcome to NBC Sports Edge, your one-stop for everything fantasy, DFS, and more. Get up-to-date news and insights from our award-winning analysts. Looking to raise your game even more? NBC Sports Edge Plus helps you level up with an array of premium tools and resources keeping you ahead of the pack. Learn more at NBCSportsEdge.com.
Our partner, Teddy Greenstein from PointsBet Breakers, join us a little bit later on in the program. Give us a look at how things are going behind the window. But let's get ready to hop into the Midwest region, Vaughn. And here we go, baby. Auburn and Kansas. These are two best teams in the bracket. I've already got Auburn in my Final Four, but I'm hearing a lot of Rock, Chalk, Jayhawk today. What we got going on, Vaughn?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I have Kansas going a little farther than Auburn in my bracket. I have more faith in Kansas, although I think both teams are slightly overrated. Auburn, down the stretch, we were talking about them. We're talking 1-6, 1-7 ATS their last 8, two covers like in their last 10. This team just hasn't got it done when it comes to covering spreads. I do think they roll against Jacksonville State, but I have them meeting up with USC in the second round. And with USC's height and the way they like to play down low, I think they're going to give Auburn trouble. I can't trust this Tigers team with their guard play down the stretch to win 3 or 4 or 5 games straight. So I would fade Auburn. I like Kansas a little more.
What we think, Tom? What we think about the Kansas Jayhawks up here with that 1 seed in this region? After the bracket was announced, Kansas went from 14-1 to 7-1. So the odds makers have taken a side.
Yeah, well, Vaughn kind of stole my thunder with that USC over Auburn second round pick. The first two futures I made before the season were Kansas 18-1, Auburn 70-1. So I obviously have a lot going on in this region, but I think Vaughn hit it on the head. I don't trust Auburn as much right now as I do Kansas, and that second round possible matchup with USC's height and zone, that's a tough one for the Tigers. I've been saying Kansas is a team we should fade over the last month, but then the brackets came out and I tried to fade them. Maybe Iowa gets them. I just don't see a lot here that can trip up the Jayhawks with a healthy Remy Martin. So I think the odds move that way because, in my opinion, Kansas has the best road to the Final Four.
Ooh. Interesting stuff, Drew. Let me get in right here. Let's talk about this Wisconsin team. One of the teams that people are looking at in this region got a tough matchup out the gate with Colgate. At least that's what I'm hearing. But here's the thing, Drew. This is still a third seeded team in this region. Any love for them?
Yeah, not for me. And realistically, the move you saw in the market on Kansas was reflecting the fact that the Midwest is soft. I mean, this is I know that Kansas was not the number 1 overall seed, but the committee sure as heck treated them like it. The 3 and 4, both the 3 and 4 seeds in this region are extremely.
Looks like Drew froze, but
yep.
I'll definitely pick up for him and say I believe the 3 and the 4 is a little overrated.
I got Colgate winning, so
you got Colgate winning.
Yeah.
I mean, I like it too. Like looking at just in general, like the 3 seeds last year, Abilene Christian beat Texas. I wish we could get Texas as a 3 seed again, Tom. But yeah, 3 seeds are usually the hitters, and I feel like Wisconsin's the 1-3 seed that'll go down early.
Let me stay right here, Vaughn, because I did the Q&A with you earlier this morning, and it kind of led me to this point when we talk about Ed Cooley's Providence team. I want to give you between 1 to 10, basically with your money putting on Providence. 1 being I work too hard for this money.
I'll stop you there.
10 being back up the Brinks truck, but I guess it comes to you work too hard for this money to put it on Ed Cooley's Providence team.
I love Ed Cooley. I love Providence. I'm a big Friars guy, but yeah, I played South Dakota State +2 and on the money line right away. This number to me was very telling of what could happen. They don't trust Providence to lead in this game much. It's probably going to play from behind, have to come back. South Dakota State, very efficient offense, ranked 12th in the country when it comes to offensive efficiency. The line of this being 149.5, 150 for the over-under. I mean, how many Providence games do we see at that total already? But this South Dakota State team has won 21 straight games. They have not lost since December 15th. Getting that 2-point line shows respect for the Jackrabbits. I think they can beat Providence. I think Providence is really, really fading away at the wrong time. So, yeah, give me South Dakota State on the money line and the +2.
So I want to ask you about a team that I've been hearing a lot of talk about that's in this Midwest region right here, and that's this Colgate team. They wear red and white just like Wisconsin, but it's not Wisconsin.
Yeah, so last year, one of my biggest bets ever was Arkansas over Colgate. Just a horrendous draw for the Raiders. This year, a good draw. I think Colgate matches up very well with Wisconsin, one of the best shooting teams in the country. Neither team rebounds that well. So you're looking at a Colgate team where Wisconsin can't really hurt them where they're weak, and Wisconsin doesn't shoot the ball well. I mean, there's a lot there that tells me that Wisconsin isn't going to win this game by 7 or 8 points. So I bet Colgate, and I think they're a live dog to win outright.
All right, let's get into some more of these matchups in this Midwest region. And Thomas, I'll start with you. We got USC and Miami. I know Miami's a team that your colleague Vaughn has been betting on a lot this year. Not sure where he stands on this one. I guess we're about to find out. But I'll come to you first. USC laying 2 points versus the Hurricanes.
Yeah, so I mentioned USC against Auburn, right? I think Miami matches up better with USC than Auburn because they shoot the three. The USC plays that zone. Yes, the Trojans' height is going to hurt Miami, but I think the Hurricanes been undervalued all year. I think they're undervalued here. As an Auburn ticket holder, baby, let's go Canes. I'm rooting for Miami. I think they got a good chance to win that game.
All right, what do you think, Vaughn? You still on Miami, or have you turned your back against your Jim Larranaga and your Hurricanes?
I feel physically sick that Tom didn't say USC money line. I mean, that wasn't good for me, but I like the Trojans in this spot now. Like I said, I've rode Miami all season. I still love the Hurricanes, all love for them, but they don't have the height to match up. Like USC has 4 guys in that lineup that's 6'9" or taller. That starts pretty much, and Miami has 1 guy that tall. The trees down low is going to get to Miami, in my opinion. USC, second best 2-point percentage team. Miami is, 266 or worse. And when it comes to offensive rebounding, defensive rebounding, 2-point percent defense. So really, if Miami is turning the ball over, it's over for them because that's the only thing they do really well here. So I like USC, although Tom made me a little nervous on this one.
I don't have a strong play on it. I think I'm rooting with my heart. I want to see Auburn matches up better with Miami. So
because I will say, this is one of my favorite bets of the first round. I think USC has every matchup because Miami lost to Florida State twice.
Huge, yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing because Miami lost to Florida State both times they played them. Almost lost to Syracuse both times. Those are 2 top 10 height teams. USC's number 4 in height. So I mean, it makes sense to me. I got USC money line for 2 units.
A lot of good points here to break down, Drew. Where are you going with it?
I like how this matchup is. This is maybe the most important matchup if you're going to try to win a bracket because exactly as these guys laid out, if USC wins this game, they go on potentially to an Elite 8 run. Miami wins this game, and Auburn all of a sudden is looking very good to come out of this region.
Yeah.
And I think that the market is a little light on Miami. I don't think this should be a 1.5 point favorite here for USC. I get the size advantage, but what Miami does well, and in my opinion, at least offensively, is they have great. I think of them as an excellent passing team. They have nice scheme. They have good coaching, and realistically, there's not a lot about the matchup of Miami's offense against USC's defense that I think the height is going to matter a ton. Now, if USC is just getting to the rim at will in this contest, then maybe the total at 139.5 is a little low. But I think Miami ultimately ought to be a pick 'em here. My numbers say that there's value on that side. And just the fact that I think Miami is slightly better as a team and that a win there really unlocks the path for Auburn to make a run. Has me bullish on Auburn in general in the Midwest.
All right, Vaughn, let's get ready to hop into some more of these games in this region right quick. One I haven't really heard too many people talking about, LSU laying 4 versus Iowa State.
This is definitely a tough game. Initially, I was like, all the numbers point to the under in this matchup, and it opened at 123.5, and then it moved up to 126 now. So that kind of scared me off of this game in general. I've led this LSU team. I have a Final Four's future on LSU. I think they have potential still to go deep with guys like when Xavier Pinson's healthy and he's scoring 8, 10+ points. This team has been winning games outright all season long at 80% or better clip. So I like LSU in this spot to get the outright win. Moneyline parlays in March are not a good thing to be doing. So I won't be playing many in the tournament. So I'm going to lay off this game. I lean the under, but with all the line movement to the over, I'm not going to have a play in this one.
Yeah, you parlay 2 favorites in this tournament. But I tell you what, you're going to be eating ramen noodles. All right. What we got right here, Thomas? LSU and Iowa State.
Yeah, so 3 metrics I like to look at a lot are turnovers, offensive rebounding, and free throw shooting. Both these teams turn the ball over more than my son's 6th grade youth team. I mean, they're all over the place. And both these teams create a ton of turnovers. I do think listen, the coaching change kind of threw me off LSU because you don't know what to expect now. You don't know if they're going to be motivated, if they're going to be down. If that hadn't happened, I would have liked LSU in this spot simply because of their athleticism. And I think they're a tough team to play in a tournament setting when you're not used to how quick and how fast and how long they are.
All right, what we got, Drew? LSU and Iowa State.
Yeah, I need to revisit some of my conference strength adjustments here because I showed value on all 6 SEC sides when I originally ran my numbers here. And this is one of them. I think LSU ought to be favored by 6.5. And I think ultimately I'm going to go to war with them. I think the Big 12 is a little overrated this year. Not like, like last year, the Big 10 was overrated. Everyone knew it. You could have just basically paid off your mortgage if you just went to war against the Big 10 teams. This year, Big 12 kind of fits a lot of those same, checks a lot of those boxes for me. But so I think ultimately getting an SEC matchup against the Big 12 team, the coaching is a somewhat of a spooky situation, but there's nothing about this LSU squad that to me looks like they've called it a season. So I think they might be catching a little bit of a buy low spot here on the Tigers.
Drew, 2 of the more impressive teams I saw watching college basketball last week was San Diego State and Creighton. They meet up in the 8-9 matchup. San Diego State laying the 2 here. Creighton's a team I think could play in the Sweet 16 this year.
Yeah, I went with San Diego State here, but it was pretty soft. I don't think I'm going to be going out and running and laying a bet on this game either way. 2 is fair for me. I know San Diego State is a very tough team to prepare for, to match up with. And in general, I thought that the conference that they played in was light years better than it has been in years past. Maybe gotten them a little bit more battle tested for a tournament run. We know, of course, they faced Syracuse early last year and got bounced when a lot of people had kind of tagged them as a dark horse. Ultimately, I'm interested in San Diego State winning only so that we can catch something like San Diego State plus 10-ish against Kansas in round 2. I think that's going to be a worthy bet.
All right, Thomas, what do you think of this one right here with San Diego State and Creighton?
Well, we know it's going to be tied 45-45 with about a minute and a half left in the game. This is talk about a rock fight. These are 2 defensive-minded teams that struggle to shoot the ball. This is a game I think is going to come down to a few turnovers, a few rebounds. A game like this is very important how the officials are calling it early, too, because they both play aggressive, especially San Diego State. Guys getting in foul trouble. So, for me, this would be more of a live bet once I see how the game's being called.
All right, Vaughn. That's an interesting point right there with that. We're taking this one live, but I'm already in on Creighton, so I need them to win.
Yeah, it's hard to back Creighton here. I mean, honestly, Creighton, I think they have potential to go deep, but when you look at their numbers, they don't shoot the 3 well. 30% this season, 314th overall, 305th offensive turnover, 327 defensive turnover numbers. I mean, that's a team it's probably worth fading when it comes to March. And I like San Diego State's defense, so I look at the under 120.5. Hard for me to trust Creighton in this spot.
All right. Before we continue on, here is a quick word about our NBC Sports Predictor Contest, powered by PointsBet, and then we get into the East region.
Don't leave money on the table. No matter your sport, the Predictor app has got you covered. Tens of thousands in cash prizes up for grabs every week, and it's free to play. Download the NBC Sports Predictor app powered by PointsBet now.
All right, let's get right back to it. Brackets and bets, Bet the Edge, brackets and bets, powered by PointsBet. Corey, Thomas, Drew, and Vaughn. All right, let's get ready to get into it. Vaughn Baylor. This is a team that helped you get a brand new car last year. You know what I'm saying? You took that future on them. You got paid out. You cashed out. Now you're riding clean. How we feel about Baylor again this year? Are they the weakest number 1 seed?
I think they are the weakest number 1 seed. I like Arizona. I like Gonzaga a lot. Kansas has been looking pretty good lately. And without JTT for Baylor, I mean, that's still a big issue for them and their injuries down the road. I can't really see them going beyond the Elite Eight in this tournament with the teams that they're playing. Like, they could beat North Carolina. I'm not very scared of the Tar Heels here, but if they run into UCLA or even an Indiana Hoosiers team who could make a run here, I mean, it could get dangerous for the Baylor Bears down the stretch. So I'm not too involved with them in the futures market. I think they are worth a fade. Yeah, your heart changes year to year, man. I'm telling you, they're 5-2 in their last 7, which isn't bad, but that loss to Oklahoma definitely put me on notice.
That's crazy. Vaughn was riding clean with Baylor last year. Now he turned his back on Baylor, Drew. Nobody seems to be turning their back on the Kentucky Wildcats. They are one of the liabilities over at PointsBet to win the championship. Drew, what do you think of Kentucky?
Well, it's a two-edged sword here because, number one, Kentucky was the team that I thought was going to be slightly overrated by the market, by the pools, and you could take a contrarian position against them. But this is, there's really no one in their section there that scares me from them getting to the Elite Eight. Potentially a matchup against San Francisco in round 2 would be fun, but I don't ultimately think Kentucky's at risk of losing. The top half of this bracket to me looks like a lot of fun. North Carolina kind of slid in as an 8 seed is very, very intriguing. I think North Carolina matches up well against the likes of a Baylor. Similarly, they match up well against the likes of a UCLA. I think St. Mary's and Purdue and Texas are all 3 single-digit seeds that can generally be dismissed. And so ultimately, if North Carolina gets that win in the round of 32, the path is pretty clear for a head-to-head between UNC and Kentucky in the Elite Eight, in my opinion. At that point, I mean, it's a pick 'em, more or less by my numbers. North Carolina is a team that does a lot of good things right. And at 20-1, the price is right for them to make a Final Four, in my opinion.
You know what, Thomas? This would be the most fitting end to Coach K's college coaching career if the North Carolina Tar Heels go on a Final Four run in his last NCAA tournament. Tom, Drew just broke it down. I already got a couple dollars on North Carolina to go to the Final Four. Please tell me, hey, Corey, you know what? I think Carolina can make the Final Four.
Well, these guys make some interesting points because I don't think Baylor is a weak 1 seed. I think they're the weakest 1 seed in the last decade. That's you're talking about, the big man down low is out. LJ Cryer not playing for the last month or so has been huge. And word is he's done. Colleges don't give out injury reports, but he's not coming back anytime soon. They've lost key players to that team that doesn't get talked about enough. So I think the thing about North Carolina is, I think Marquette's garbage, but who knows, right? With North Carolina, who knows what to expect of it. They get past that game. Then I think they're dangerous. UCLA, they're a team that Akron slows the game down a lot. You know what I mean? There's going to be. I agree with Drew. This looks like some fun in this region because I think the number 1 seed is weak. I personally think Kentucky rolls to the Final Four here, and I mean rolls. I think the second round game against Murray State, San Francisco might be Kentucky's toughest game of the tournament. Get past that, and it's Final Four time.
All right, Vaughn, we got Kentucky all the way going to the Final Four. But I think I've heard you. I've been capping with you and working with you for over a year now. And I know you like some UCLA Bruins. You know what I'm saying? UCLA is in this region. Can they be a team to make a Final Four run?
I do, but first I want to ask Drew, did you say that UCLA is one of the teams you're going to fade in this region?
No, I think UCLA makes a Sweet 16, but I don't love the way they match up against UNC. Honestly, UNC, just real quick, UNC has sort of the weird little kind of intangible recipes where they peaked coming down the home stretch. They beat Duke on their home court in the final game of the regular season. Like that was such a we are for real. And then the fact that they let down a little bit in the ACC was not surprising. Like it was, it didn't mean as much. They had already punched their ticket. They get an 8 seed. They're in a relative, they're up against the weakest 1 seed. I think UCLA, North Carolina, that's a game that I have close to a pick 'em. North Carolina, Kentucky is a game I have close to a pick 'em. So that's really one of those 3 teams emerges in my opinion.
Okay. I feel very confident in UCLA. Like they're one of 4 teams in the country, top 15, adjusted offense and defense efficiency. I do agree a matchup with North Carolina would be very interesting and probably not great for them. I think they could get past Baylor, but I wouldn't sleep on Indiana either. If they win the play-in game, get hot. They look hot right now, but yeah, I like UCLA in the futures. I think that they have some money to be made in the Sweet 16 for sure. And I'd probably take a flyer on them Elite Eight, Final Four.
All right, let's get in here and handicap some of these games. Tom, I'm going to start with you. Let's start with one of the first four matchups. Indiana and Wyoming. Opened up Indiana laying 3.5. I hopped on it. Felt pretty good about that. Now we're seeing the Hoosiers laying 4 versus Wyoming. This is my man Mike Woodson. He's doing a pretty decent job.
Yes.
Yeah, no, and I think they match up well with Wyoming. It's been a great season for the Cowboys. They, last team in the tournament, but they rely so much on 2 players. Maldonado and Ike down low. I think Indiana's defense in the paint is what's going to be big here. If Ike gets in foul trouble early, watch out, because Wyoming's a complete different team. If you're talking about a live bet for how they're calling that game down in the paint, but I lean Indiana to advance and said possibly go even further.
All right, Vaughn, you're up next on this one right here. First 4 round in Dayton, Indiana laying 4 versus Wyoming.
Yeah, I certainly like Indiana too. This is the side that I would play in this matchup. I think that they have potential to go deep. They've been looking phenomenal for losing a lot of games in the past 11 or 12 games. Indiana looked phenomenal in the Big Ten tournament. Wyoming is a team that does not force any turnovers. If you're not forcing turnovers against Indiana, I like the extra possessions. And I'll say the Hoosiers are a bit unlucky. Their opponents are hitting 76% from the free throw line this season. That's 14th best in the country. So that's a pretty unlucky number.
All right, what do you think, Drew? The same contest.
Yeah, Indiana -5.5 is my fare here. So I'm going Hoosiers or pass.
All right, let's continue to ride through this region right here. My team, Vaughn, Purdue, my man, the super gremlin, Jaden Ivey, the best player in the tournament. Purdue laying 15.5 versus Yale. They're all smart and stuff, but can they really roll with Purdue?
Hey, man, who's getting in front of Purdue right now to cover a spread? I'm not betting on Purdue to cover a spread. They're 1-9 ATS in their last 10 games, and they've been favorites in every single game. So they covered 1 spread. I'm not getting behind that. If you like Jaden Ivey so much, go on his player props. That's a much better bet in this game. I think he'll have a great game, but I am not laying 15.5 with Purdue. No way.
I mean, Drew, it's a new season. You know what I'm saying? It's a new season. It's Yale. They regroup, and they successfully lay 15.5.
I'm fine taking Yale first half in this game. 15.5 for the full game. I'm going to steer clear of, just because I could see Purdue making some adjustments at halftime and being able to put on a little bit of a second half margin here. But Yale, I think, is going to be tough to prepare for, and they're going to compete early in this contest. 15.5 is pretty close to my fare. I'm at Purdue 16, but Vaughn's points are all very real. Like Purdue, there are a ton of red flags about that team.
I guess, Thomas, it's kind of tough to lay this number with Purdue, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I'm off on Purdue overall, but, as someone who follows the Ivy League, I was kind of hoping Princeton would make it. I thought they were the best team in the Ivy all season. So for me, the second best team in the Ivy League is in the tournament. Yale has really struggled with teams that are athletic. I don't know. I wouldn't lay the number with Purdue, but I see Yale having a tough time covering the 15.5 here. I really do.
All right, Thomas, stay right here. Texas is a single point favorite versus Virginia Tech. This is one of the games that's seeing a lot of action. I bet Texas -1 last night. Where are you at on Texas and Va Tech? Thomas.
Oh, I'm sorry. So originally I liked Virginia Tech in this game, but as the season goes on, I make some notes. And one thing I pointed out to myself early in the season, and it's been a problem all year, is Virginia Tech struggles against athletic guards who pressure the ball. If you watch that game against Memphis early in the year, boy, they look completely outclassed. So I kind of switched my thoughts on this. I went from Virginia Tech to Texas. God knows I hate to bet Texas, or I hate to back Texas, or anything to do with Texas. I mean, it's like having a root canal, having money on that team. But I do think their defense gets it done in this game, because Virginia Tech, I feel, is going to be a popular play after the ACC tournament. But again, one of those teams that kind of got hot. I like Texas.
All right, what do you say, Drew?
Yeah, I'm with Tom. I in general, this kind of a blueprint where Virginia Tech just, they needed overtime to beat Clemson, or else their season's over. and they play their way in with the ACC title, and then draw Texas and are only catching 1 point. All the statistical models that I'm looking at across the space, including my own, are in the Texas to -1.5 to -3 range. I think realistically, Texas is the right team to put in your bracket, and the right side to cover this game. I think even though both Texas and Purdue look like teams that I'm dying to fade, ultimately, I think you're going to have to wait until week 2 to do that.
All right, Vaughn, we left you on the island with Virginia Tech, didn't we?
I mean, yeah, you did. So that sucks. I was leaning Virginia Tech a lot in this matchup, but I, like everyone else, am seeing recency bias in my pick here. And I've watched Texas all season long, and as favorites, I've just not been invested in this team as a favorite. I mean, going back last 10, 11 games as a favorite, they've only covered 2 spreads. They haven't covered one their past 4 as a favorite. So that stuff kind of scares me, but matching up well, I do think Texas matches up with Virginia Tech better than what we've seen Virginia Tech do in the ACC tournament. So you guys are probably right. I haven't bet this one, but I do lean Tech.
All right, Thomas, Vaughn, I want you guys to hang out for a minute. I'm going to get to this promo, then we're going to tell you what's going on next. Don't forget to check out our daily podcast, Bet the Edge, powered by PointsBet, to help you wager with confidence. Sarah Perlman and Drew Dinsick, along with our NBC Sports Edge team of experts, provides listeners with unique analysis, projections, and picks. Be sure to check out our edge betting tools and tune in to give yourself an extra edge with your wagers. Teddy Greenstein from PointsBet joins us next, and we'll catch up with Vaughn and Tom for the West region.
Welcome to NBC Sports Edge, your one stop for everything fantasy, DFS, and more. Get up-to-date news and insights from our award-winning analysts. Looking to raise your game even more? NBC Sports Edge Plus helps you level up with an array of premium tools and resources keeping you ahead of the pack. Learn more at NBCSportsEdge.com.
All right, Teddy Greenstein from PointsBet joins the program. Happy to have you, Teddy. Help us break down some of this bracket madness we got going on. Let us know what's going on behind the glass over there with the good people at PointsBet. So let me start off by asking you this, Teddy. How does the public bet March Madness? Are they going after their alma maters? Are they doing the same thing they do in a bracket? I can imagine it's pretty chalky, right?
Yeah, I better not bet on mine because mine is Northwestern, and I really don't think the Cats are going to win a game in this tournament. But I would say, Corey, that it's the opposite of the NFL, right? In the NFL, we think of the public as loving the favorites. And in March Madness, they love the underdogs. They love plus money. Like, nobody's going to brag to their friends about a winning ticket on Providence, but they'll probably brag to their friends about South Dakota State and how smart they are and how they knew the Jack Rapids were going to get it done. And along those lines, too, we see fewer spread bets on the underdog. We see more money line plays. So that's certainly a case there with South Dakota State. People are thinking this is March and the upsets are going to happen.
Oh, that's fascinating. Speaking of upsets happening, like as you look across the board at the round 1 plays, any numbers particularly stand out that surprise you? Any action that you've taken so far that you expected or were not prepared for?
Drew, the 2 lines that stood out to me were Michigan as an 11 seed, giving points, giving 2.5 to Colorado State. Obviously, Michigan is a wildly up and down team. Last 2-game winning streak came a month ago. This is a 14-loss team, so I think there's some brand name effect here. That said, Colorado State, not much to brag about either, even though they only lost 5 games, probably viewed as the most overseeded team in the field. And then the other one, I have family in Burlington, Vermont, so kind of love that Vermont is getting a lot of respect against Arkansas, only a 5.5-point line. Although for people who saw the America East Finals, that won't surprise them. They doubled up UMBC. I will caution, though, Arkansas 14-3-1 in its last 18 against the spread.
Interesting stuff right there. I know you've probably been backstage checking out some of the program. Yep. You've heard us talk and break down the question of which team or teams have the best draw, the best path, to a potential Final Four. Give me some of your thoughts on the teams with the easiest pass and how they're being bet.
Yeah, I'm going to give you an easiest and a toughest. And I know Drew will agree with my easiest because he's been harshing on the Midwest region. So I'm going to go for Auburn here. Now, look, we know that this team has had a huge fade after a 22-1 start. and the Tigers are only 1-6 against the spread away from home in their last 7. However, when you look at the Midwest, I don't think Wisconsin as a 3 seed scares anyone, especially if Johnny Davis is not at full health. He tweaked an ankle recently, and then LSU just fired Will Wade. So I don't think the Midwest scares anyone. And then in terms of the toughest path, I'm going to go with the Zags. Going to face Boise State or Memphis in that second game. 2 obviously very different style teams. Boise, great defensively. The head coach is Leon Rice, who is a Mark Few protege, and we know Memphis has some pros. So Auburn looking good, and Gonzaga's going to have a tough time.
Oh, that's interesting. So because we have a lot of kind of blue blood programs getting relatively well seeded in this tournament, the likes of the Kentuckys, Kansases, Arizonas of the world, does that affect how you guys have taken action in the futures market over the balance of the season? And are there a couple of those teams that stand out as you are really hoping to see some blood in the water and maybe get bounced early so that you aren't facing those liabilities?
Well, Corey asked in the first stretch there about people betting their alma maters. So there's certainly a lot of sentimentality in this tournament, and we're seeing it first and foremost with Duke. So if you're wondering about our largest liability, it is Duke, and followed by Duke. I mean, wow. 4 times higher than any other team in this field, but we are still comfortable offering the Blue Devils at 12-1 to win it all. Beyond that, we're getting a lot of action on Gonzaga, Kentucky, Purdue, and Iowa. Purdue and Iowa, you could maybe say it's the factors of, PointsBet has some strong states here near me in Indiana and Iowa. So we're certainly not surprised by the support they're getting from their states.
That's all very good stuff. Like you talk about PointsBet having those books out there in Iowa and Illinois. Definitely want to see those teams get bet up. Interesting to keep an eye on that stuff and all the good stuff you do. If you haven't tried PointsBet out yet, make sure you give them a shot. Teddy, thanks a lot, my man.
Enjoyed it, guys. Talk to you soon.
All right, we got the homies Drew, Vaughn, and Thomas. Thomas and Vaughn, welcome back to the set. We got to continue to talk and break down some of these regions. And now we head over to the West, Drew, where Gonzaga and the Blue Devils. We just heard Teddy mention the liability is on Duke. Obviously, Coach K's last ride, Coach K, the last dance. But when you look at it, who do you see as a team between these 2 teams, particularly Duke and Gonzaga, who can get the fallers into this tournament?
Yeah, so the Duke path is absolutely brutal. You do not want to face a coach like Izzo in March. Doesn't matter how good his team is. You do not want to face a defense like Texas Tech in March. Doesn't matter, what round you end up facing them. And those are potentially your round of 32 and Sweet 16 matchups. And there's really not a lot of other strong Cinderella stories that could potentially save you from having to do the hard work yourself. Gonzaga, similarly, they're going to have an interesting, tough test every step of the way. But honestly, if I'm Gonzaga and if I'm looking for some positive spin that this is, that the fact that the West is a very challenging region, I'm fine with the fact that you're going to get to face some good, not great teams on your way to a Final Four. And that, to me, is, last year that their West region was extremely soft. They really did not face a tough test until they got to the Final Four, played UCLA. UCLA played them toe-to-toe and really softened them up before Baylor just absolutely got the better of them in the national championship game. I think this time around, coming from a weak Western, WCC was awful this year. And realistically, they haven't been tested in months. And I think the fact that they have a little bit of a challenging road could be construed as a positive. Now, I don't know that I'm going to be laying the points with Gonzaga all along the way here, but Gonzaga to come out of the West and still being clearly the best team in this region, I think is undeniable.
Interesting stuff right there, Drew, breaking it down for us. So basically, you're saying maybe they get battle tested inside the bracket because they haven't been battle tested throughout the course of the season. Interesting to see how that plays out. Thomas, Arkansas, contender or pretender?
Oh, contender for sure. I think I have UConn coming out of this region. I took a shot with them, but it wouldn't surprise me if I agree with what everyone's saying. Like, this is a tough bracket, I think, for Gonzaga. There's some teams there that can grind them down. I mean, Arkansas, you look at their first round game. I mean, apparently don't ever write on Twitter that Vermont's going to get hammered. I've never seen that was a throwaway line for me. You know, listen, I went to school in Vermont. My sister lives in Vermont. I picked Vermont to beat Syracuse years ago. They love me there. I'm a legend. But I think Arkansas, much too tough for Vermont. I think it's a bad draw, and I like the winner of Arkansas-UConn to maybe get out of this region. Teddy said something interesting about Gonzaga's second-round game. I don't know if Boise State or Memphis is going to beat the Zags, but that's a tough second-round game for them against two different style teams. So I think Arkansas is a contender. I think UConn's a contender. I think that upper region, the upper part of the bracket, is just as tough as the bottom part of the bracket. You could see some craziness here.
Interesting stuff. I put a couple dollars on Memphis to make it to the Final Four. I think I'm in the boat by myself on that one, Vaughn. Vaughn, Tom mentioned UConn coming out of this region. What's your thoughts on the Huskies?
I'm not as high on the Huskies as Tom, not going to lie. I mean, I've seen plenty of UConn games this season in person. I still think this is not a very good basketball team. I feel like they're far, far overrated for what they are. They basically have two guys, Adam Sanogo and Aycock, that are the biggest differences for this team. The rest of the guys I can't really trust, especially the guard play. It's a team that just continually turns the ball over a lot. As a favorite this season, they're 12, 14, and 1 ATS, so 46% hit rate with 1 cover in their last 5 and 3 in their last 10. And you talk about New Mexico State, they're a tall team, top 50 in height. They match up well when it comes to that. They like to score inside, and they're 4-0 ATS as an underdog and 4-0 on the money line this season as an underdog. So I do see some upset potential here. When I land in Pennsylvania tomorrow, I'm playing New Mexico State plus a 6.5. So I like them here. I know it's probably not going to be a very popular pick, but like I said, UConn has been on my fade list for a very long time, and I'm excited to begin that journey this week.
Yeah, and Vaughn, real quick, you make a good point because I think they could lose that first round game. But if you remember a few years ago, New Mexico State almost beat Auburn. They had a shot at the buzzer, right? And then Auburn went to the Final Four. So again, I think you have to survive these tough first round games. And if UConn can get by that, I think they're in good shape.
And you know what's so funny?
I'll throw it out too. And I'll say that since, like I said this a little bit earlier, but since 2000, a 5 seed has lost every year except 3 years. And it's either going to be UConn or St. Mary's. One of those two 5 seeds are losing because I love Houston, I love Iowa. So fading one of those two. That
New Mexico State and Auburn game was the first game of the tournament. So your bracket changed dramatically. Very first game of the tournament. Because I remember being on New Mexico State that year. All right, Drew, get to this West region. Let's talk about some of these teams that we haven't mentioned. Michigan State, interesting. Davidson, very interesting. And Texas Tech, my pick to win the West region.
Those are all good teams. Texas Tech especially. I think as I look at their little subsection right there, I have Texas Tech as meaningful favorites over Montana State as well as Alabama, Rutgers, or Notre Dame. Texas Tech, maybe of all of the, everyone outside of Gonzaga here, to me, Texas Tech is the most likely to make the Sweet 16. And ultimately, I think if Michigan State pops Duke, if Duke, even if Davidson, they're going to go toe to toe with the Duke just because of the way they shoot. So I think realistically, Texas Tech getting to the Elite Eight is fair. At which point Gonzaga, Texas Tech might be one of my most anticipated potential matchups of the tournament.
All right, let's get ready to hop in here, Vaughn, and break some of these games down. Kind of already know where Tom feels at, but let's start with you. Arkansas laying 5.5 versus, guess who? The Vermont Catamounts, your boys.
I wish I could play the Catamounts, but Tom was absolutely right. This could not be a worse draw for Vermont. When this came up, I was like, why couldn't we get Michigan State or Wisconsin or, Miami, one of these teams? But no, we got to get Arkansas. This is purely a fade spot for me. One money line I would feel confident playing is Arkansas, but I like the team total of over 72.5 for the Razorbacks. I think they can score up and down all over Vermont.
All right, Thomas, go ahead. Thomas, get in here, and I guess you already told us how you feel about Vermont, but quickly, on Arkansas this round.
Yeah, I think Arkansas's defense is going to be the difference here. Vermont's going to try to play slow, but if they fall behind, I think they're going to get into some trouble. It's just, it was a week ago that everybody loved Arkansas. I'm betting Arkansas to win the SEC tournament.
Yeah.
And this is my point with falling in love with specific teams. People just want to bet Vermont. It's a bad matchup. I think Arkansas wins by double digits.
Yeah, Drew, everybody was on Vermont coming into the tournament. Now it's like a left turn.
Yeah, this was a bad draw. I don't know why the tournament committee does this sometimes, where they take sort of that hot Cinderella potential and they give them the worst possible matchup. We saw it as Tom mentioned, I think with Colgate. Yeah, last year that was basically immediately through cold water on that team. And then similarly, I feel like that's what's going on here with Vermont. Arkansas, I make as 7-point favorites here. I mentioned I may have a little bit of bias towards the SEC with my numbers. It's not kind of perfectly capturing true strength of these teams because the market seems pretty happy with the 5.5 here. But ultimately, I think Arkansas wins this one by margin.
Thomas, Memphis laying 2.5 versus Boise State. This is going to be a very, very interesting game. I'm on Memphis. Listen, on paper, one of the top 10 teams in the country. They don't play the games on paper, though. They play them on basketball courts.
Yeah, this is a tough game to cap because they're so different. They each have strengths and weaknesses that the others can exploit. The reason I like Memphis a little bit here is because I don't think Boise has seen a team this athletic all year. And Memphis, you like them, Corey. That's a team, the talent to get on a run. You don't want that team playing well at the end of the season. So I do lean Memphis here. And I also think, as much as I love the Mountain West, love watching it, it's a little bit overrated coming into the tournament.
Yeah, love watching that Mountain West. A lot of late nights on the East Coast. What we think, Vaughn? Memphis and Boise State.
I think it's going to be a dogfight. I'm looking at the under, but I can't trust Memphis, Corey. They've had 15, 19, and 21 turnovers in their last 3 games. Like, that is ridiculous. When you look at their numbers on the season, they're literally a bottom 10 team when it comes to offensive turnover percentage. And now they go against a team like Boise State, who wants to grit and grind, slow them down. Now, I do agree with Tom. Memphis is far too athletic for Boise State. They have not faced a team to match up like this with them. So this is a stay-away game for me, but I definitely don't trust Memphis and all their turnovers.
I can understand, Drew, people not trusting Memphis. Obviously, we saw how they were playing through the majority of the season. And then Coach Hardaway had that, that tirade. Then they kind of turned it around after that, had the loss in this conference tournament. But this Boise State team is tough. Talk about a bad draw, but I do like Memphis. Where do you stand on this game right here?
Yeah, my numbers say Boise State should be favored, but the market is very, very confident in Memphis here. So I'm going to pass on this one. Ultimately, I think there must be something. Maybe it is the athleticism as mentioned by Tom, but something about this one doesn't seem right to me, at least the way the market has shaped up. So this one's a pass.
All right. And then our next game to discuss in this round, Vaughn, Duke laying 17.5 versus Cal State Fullerton. You know what? Keep the points. I'm on Cal State Fullerton money line.
Oh my goodness! Say a 2 seed goes down. Hey, I mean, I'm not super opposed to it. I think Duke is going to get knocked out early. Like, Duke's not making it past the Sweet 16, in my opinion. I think Tom had the tweet the other day or put it in his article about Duke having 5 of his last 6 worst defensive games, all efficiency-wise, coming recently. That is a terrible thing heading into this. And we saw number 2 lost last year. Ohio State lost to Oral Roberts. So, Corey, I don't hate it. I'm definitely not rushing to lay the points with Duke. And just a fun fact is you should be playing the team totals on opposite sides against Duke. Every single one has hit in the last 7 games. Every team scored 65+ on them. So target the team totals opposite the team Duke's playing in March.
All right, what do we got? Drew? Cal State Fullerton and Duke. 17.5.
I'm going to pass on this one.
I don't blame you.
I definitely don't want Cal State Fullerton money line. I've seen a lot of Duke teams that stink, and they're in the tournament fraudulently, and they get popped round 1. Lehigh beat them one year. I remember very, very memorably, as they were a 2 seed, I think. But this is not that quality. This is not that poor of a quality Duke team. Like, they're not good. They're not going to win the title, but they're not that bad. So I don't think they're going to lose to Fullerton. Although Fullerton, of course, is they were tough getting to this point. I would say that if you like Fullerton, if you like them with the points or with the money line, based on what we heard from Teddy and based on what I'm looking at the market right now, it's going to keep going up. So I would wait until closer to tip off to get involved with the dog. If you like the dog in this one, my guess, if I had to say, this is going to close 19 or 19.5.
Thomas, you touched on this one yet? Cal State, Fullerton, and Duke.
Yeah, the interesting thing is it feels like something's not right there at Duke. Just look at the defensive intensity. I mean, you guys know I'm a Syracuse guy, and Buddy Boeheim may not be the best player in the country. He might be the most important to his team. I mean, because Syracuse has no depth at all. And for Duke to struggle in that game without Buddy Boeheim was eye-opening to me.
Yeah.
Kentucky, Gonzaga, Kansas, they win that game by 30 for fun. So I just don't understand where the lack of defensive intensities come from. They don't look like they want to be on the court, but I will caution some patience, wait around. Cal State Fullerton wasn't the draw. Trust me. I know everybody's dying to bet against Duke, but this isn't the team. I think Duke might win this game rather easily, and then it'll set up some opportunities for us to fade them down the line.
All right, there you go right there. We are rocking and rolling. Still got a little bit of time left. First, let me tell you, make sure you check us out on our NBC Sports Predictor app powered by PointsBet. This way you go over there, you download the app for free. Your chance to play in a ton of different contests, whether it's college basketball, the NBA contest, your shot at free cash. And so download the NBC Sports Predictor app powered by PointsBet.
Welcome to NBC Sports EDGE. Your one stop for everything fantasy, DFS, and more. Get up-to-date news and insights from our award-winning analysts. Looking to raise your game even more? NBC Sports Edge Plus helps you level up with an array of premium tools and resources keeping you ahead of the pack. Learn more at NBCSportsEdge.com.
Oh, you just saw that NBC Sports Edge commercial. It had Vaughn and Drew in it. How about that? All right, but now it's time to get to the grand finale. Let's start with team to fade. I will go first. Should come as no surprise. I am fading the Duke Blue Devils. Thomas, who are you fading?
Yeah, the guy who didn't make the commercial. I'd fade Purdue and Baylor, I think, are two teams that aren't going to be around long.
Vaughn, who you fading?
I'm also on Purdue, Michigan, and Wisconsin. All those teams I feel like are great fades. They're all 1-8, 1-9, or 2-7 in their last 9 and 10 against the spread.
All right, Drew, who you fading?
I think I'm going to get the most equity out, or I'm going to shoot for equity here. Either that or I'm going to lose every pool by trying to take on the mighty Kansas Jayhawks. They're in the easiest region. They should make a run here, but they have potentially some tough matchups in terms of just difficult teams to prepare for, where they may come in a little bit overconfident, maybe looking past their opponent. Maybe I'm being hopeful and thinking that Auburn really, the path could open up wide open for them. But the team for me in terms of a fade is Kansas.
Next topic, Cinderella team to watch. I will go first. I am going to go with Creighton, like the way they played in the Big East tournament, like their style of play. I think they're a tough, battle-tested team, double-digit wins in the Big East. Vaughn, who is your Cinderella team? This is where you say the Norfolk Spartans.
I wish it was Norfolk. I mean, I wish they would have got better draws, Norfolk and Vermont. But, hey, there's a couple teams I like. I'm really big on Loyola and Davidson this year. I think those two teams could go pretty far. So I'll be taking a look at those two in the Sweet 16 range.
Thomas? Cinderella.
Yeah, for me, it's Loyola and Chattanooga. I think Chattanooga is going to be a tough first-round opponent for Illinois, but I really like this Loyola team. Tough second-round matchup with Villanova, but I think they have a shot there to make the Sweet 16.
All right, Drew, what we got?
I like Chattanooga as a Cinderella to get an upset over Illinois in round one. And then as far as the team that I think can that's lower seeded that can make a real run here, I've put a lot of eggs in the UNC basket at this point. They're an 8 seed. They're 20-1 to go to the Final Four. And like I said, I think they're going to be a reasonable bet on against every one of them, kind of the blue bloods that they face along the way.
All right, let's get to Final Four. Thomas, you're up first.
Yeah, for me, it's Kansas. I don't feel great about it because I don't love the Jayhawks, but I went with them. Arizona, Kentucky, and UConn. So that's the way my brackets go. You can cross those 4 teams off right now.
What you got, Drew? Your Final Four.
So I like Gonzaga to come out of the very challenging West. As mentioned, I think the bracket of death is the South with Arizona, Villanova. I have Villanova ultimately emerging there as the 2 seed. I think Auburn comes out of the Midwest, and then I have UNC coming out of the East, which is my big wild card.
I got to say, Drew has rejuvenated my Auburn ticket. I'm pumped after this show. I love it.
I went through. I do the same thing every year where I have like these are the red flags, and I tally it all up, and all of the top seeds that get crossed off, and I do the same thing every year, and at the end of the day, Auburn was still there. Like they are excellent at defending against the rim. That is something that does travel when you're in these wide open arenas where the teams they're up against are trying to shoot threes and they cannot get it done at the basket. That's a good recipe for success in my mind.
All right, Vaughn, final four.
All right, so I'm rolling with the Bulldogs as well. I'm not chalky like these guys though, because I'm rolling with some 4, 5s, and 6, or 3 4s and 5s in Tennessee, Iowa, and UCLA. So I think it's March Madness. We're gonna get some upset outrights. The one team I do think could reach in here and make my Final Four is Arizona. I feel like I keep sleeping on them and disrespecting them. But for now, I love Gonzaga versus UCLA. And I'll take a swing on Tennessee versus Iowa, which both those teams can either lose in the second round or go all the way to the Final Four.
Interesting stuff right there. My Final Four, I am going to break it down with my national semis being Texas Tech versus Kentucky and Arizona versus Auburn. So that Auburn ticket lives, Thomas. And for my outright winner, my 2022 national champion, when I saw them yesterday being announced that they were going to the tournament, no jumping up and down and screaming. It was just a golf clap and get ready for business. They looked like a professional basketball team. That was the Arizona Wildcats. That's my pick at plus 600 on PointsBet to win the tournament. Drew, who do you got cutting down the nets?
It is finally time for Gonzaga to take home a title. This is it. This is the team. The battle hardened in the very challenging Western region, but no one quite as good quality-wise, I think, ultimately. And this is Gonzaga's year to lose. All
right, Thomas, what do we got? The national champion.
Well, I went with Arizona, but after listening to Drew, I kind of like Auburn again. But no, I'm going to go with Arizona. Like I said, I think when everyone's playing their best, I think they're the best. So if they don't have any letdowns, I like their chances.
All right, Vaughn, bring it home, my man.
Hey, we got to split this show somehow, baby. I'm on Gonzaga as well. I played them at 4-1. I'll take them at 3.5-1 again. I love the Bulldogs and what they're going to do with Chet Holmgren this year. Battle-tested, battle-hardened. They've overcome it all. This is the year for the Gonzaga Bulldogs.
All right, there you go right there. I want to give a big special shout-out to Brian Rubin, Adam Wise, Johnny, PJ, Blake, the whole crew behind the scenes to make sure that we look good. Shout out to Drew, Vaughn, and Thomas for coming through with their picks. Once again, you can catch all our content at NBCSportsEdge.com. And make sure you subscribe to our NBC Sports Edge YouTube channel. You can catch Bet the Edge every single day with Sarah and Drew. For Drew, Vaughn, and Thomas, I'm Corey Parson, the Fantasy Executive. Good luck, everybody. We are out.